Alright, hello YouTube. So, my name is Spencer Townsend. I'm going to teach you guys a little bit about the white tie dress codes. Now, a lot of you guys know about tuxedos and black tie, but today I figured I'm going to tell you a little bit about white tie because that's something that's not really well known. So, there are a few main parts of the white tie ensemble. First and foremost, it's cut back here, and of course the tails go all the way down to about the back of your knees or so. The color should be black, and it should have these peaked lapels, and of course a buttonhole for a boutonniere. As far as variations on this, historically, midnight blue was another great color option, as well as the shawl collar instead of the peaked lapel that you see a lot of times on tuxedos. It should have two stripes going down the sides of the trousers where they're also called galons. It's just on the outseam of the trousers. Tailcoat here is tail suit, I guess I should call it. I picked up at my local tuxedo rental shop, 5 years ago or so by now. And you can see it is not a flat black, but there are very fine gray lines, gray vertical lines running up and down the entire length, up and down the tailcoat jacket. Also, you'll notice there's only one galon going up and down. So while technically this is inappropriate for white tie, if you're at a more laid back event, I guess if you're on the West Coast and it's a white tie event, then it's probably just fine, is the morning coat. Now this too is a tailcoat. However, you'll notice where the evening tailcoat was cut back here and it went back to the tails, the morning tailcoat just sweeps down. And it's not mourning as in like you go into mourning after somebody dies. It's just mourning as in daytime. One of the very few white tie items that I've seen debated so heatedly. This particular shirt right here is a vintage shirt. What you're looking for is something with a contrasting bosom on the front of it here, and it's going to be made from a very different weave of fabric. But it's going to be like a bird's eye weave. Of course, white is the only appropriate color here, but it can be made from a bird's eye weave, or it could be made from a plain cotton weave. This one I found at a local antique shop. It has not been starched yet. That's one of the other important things. Always make sure you want to starch them so they're as stiff as a board, or so they say. So this is a plain linen with a very fine vertical stripe on it. So these two shirts that I just showed you, they're both vintage shirts, probably from World War I to World War II, about that era. And if you'll notice on them, neither of them have an attached collar. This was actually something that was started in the 1820s or 30s when a lady who was married to a blacksmith got so sick and tired of having to wash her husband's collars every day once he got off of work. So what she did was she just took the shirt and she cut the collar off and she washed it separately and sewed it back on. This was a popular practice. Of course, they soon became so that they were buttoned-on collars, not necessarily sewn on every time. That would get far too tedious and expensive. But that was a practice that held pretty strongly in most menswear shirts up until about World War One. After World War One, shirt collars became attached again. Especially the turn down collars like what I'm wearing here. Yeah, they became much more popular. And then at some point in the 1960s, the detachable collars all but disappeared. Now I have for you a vintage collar here, which I just finished starching and ironing. And you see it is very much detachable. It opens up like this. You have a buttonhole on the back and two in the front for your stud. You take your stud, put it in the front of the front stud hole of the shirt. You button the back, you button the front. Bada bing, bada boom. You have a very, very good looking white tie ensemble going on. So this shirt right here, it buttons along the back, and there is exactly one spot on the back where you can button it, and then the top button, which is a stud that you put the collar onto. It also has this little loop here, and in some modern tuxedo shirts, you will see that loop on the collar on just on the back, and it's supposed to help keep your bow tie from slipping off the back of your neck. So like I said, the front is just essentially a fake front. This placket that goes along the front is entirely fake. There are two buttonholes in here that you put your studs into, and then you just wear it. Whereas with this shirt, it has that same loop in the back, and the hole for a stud is right up there that you just slip inside of here, but it buttons from the front. And these ones can be a little bit more difficult to close when they're highly starched. One shirt to definitely not wear with a white tie ensemble is what they might call a piqué or a Marcella weave shirt, which this shirt indeed is. It has a very, very, very fine weaving pattern in it, and it is white. However, since this shirt is just a normal dress shirt, it's so difficult to get it starched as stiff as a board, A, and B, you'll already notice it has a pocket on the front here, and C, the collar is the wrong style of collar. The collar must be either this wing collar design where the tips of it are folded down, or if you go back about 10 years earlier from when that collar was made, you'll get this type of collar, which just sits on your neck. It's also called like a poke collar because people would complain about getting poked in the neck from it. Both of these collars I have worn out, and they are very comparable in comfort. Actually, this whole ensemble is really comfortable because it fits. And as Antonio Centeno says, I mean, fit is king. If something fits, then it's going to be great. Well, you got 1/3 of it, great. This is kind of the modern rendition of the white tie shirt. You notice it has that same wing collar, but it is attached this time. It has that Marcella or piqué weave to it, and it has single cuffs. These are not French cuffs. They're single cuffs or barrel cuffs that close with cufflinks. For shirts in white tie, always go for single cuffs. Now, you don't want to go for double cuffs like what I'm wearing here. It's because it's supposed to be a much more crisp look, and double cuffs are perfectly fine for black tie and tuxedos because it is kind of that soft look. Now, for waistcoats, you're going to want to go with white. A white single-breasted or double-breasted low-cut waistcoat. Don't opt for black. It used to be a popular color, then just before World War I, it turned into, they were used for mourning, like if you were going to a funeral. Mourning, this time it is actually mourning as in funeral mourning, but always go with white and make sure, absolute sure that it's low cut. You don't want to go with something that's high cut. This is for daytime wear. You want to be able to expose now. A very important thing when it comes to the vest is how the jacket fits over it. The tip of the jacket should come down just to the bottom of the waistcoat. It shouldn't go too far past it, and it shouldn't be way above it. That's one of the biggest mistakes you will see in white tie, is having the tailcoat come down not far enough. And of course, one of the last things that you'll need is a white bow tie. Now, this is a single end bow tie, but obviously the double ends are just as acceptable. In fact, they're probably more popular because they're more known about. Single end bow ties, they were invented in the 30s as a more sleeker, slimmer look. And the idea behind them is that you just have one end that is the bow, and then you tie the other end around it, and you tuck this tail end behind the band in the collar, and you have a very slim, elegant bow tie. The reason I prefer the single end bow ties over the double end is because of that, and also there is no size adjuster on it. So it's all one continuous strand, and it doesn't matter if I gain 50 pounds in 10 years, this bow tie will still fit me then. If you want to go for that look and you don't want to worry about size or about your neck size changing, definitely look for the single end model. The most acceptable for white tie is the opera pump or the court shoe. And I know it kind of looks like a lady's slipper, but I assure you it is not. One of the main differences between this opera pump and what you'll see advertised as opera pumps a lot of times is this vamp right here. Now, this top part is called the vamp. Now, what you'll see a lot of times that celebs do is their vamps will come all the way up to there, so it's like a daytime loafer or something. What it actually is a slipper. It's an indoor slipper. You'll see it in velvet, and you'll see the bow is just about in the same place, but there'll be this enormous tab of patent leather that extends up over the top of your foot. You want to make sure that this is very low cut to expose your silk stockings, which of course is one of the more elegant things, I suppose. If you don't have a pair of these, then black Oxfords work just fine. Patent leather Oxfords, patent leather Darbys or Bluchers also were popular in Europe in the 30s and the 40s, and of course that's kind of the golden age of menswear. So the studs for the shirts, there are two main kinds of studs you can get. You can get the classic standard stud, which you get at your tuxedo retailer, which has the outside, the exposed bit, and then you have a shaft, and you have this back bit here, which holds your shirt in place. There's also a very, very tiny ring of metal around it. There's also another kind, and I don't know if they're called piston backs or what. That's what I called them because it has, you have the stud front here, but on the back side it has a little piston that helps you with putting it in and out of the shirt. And I prefer these piston backs for my white tie and for when I'm wearing black tie with the stiff front shirt, just because they're much easier to put in. To demonstrate how to put these things in, you just get your shirt, you find the buttonhole, you pop it in, pop the bottom side in first, and you pull down, let go, bada bing, bada boom, and you're looking fantastic. Of course, you cannot go wrong with cufflinks. In fact, cufflinks are never going to hold your shirt cuffs closed, no matter what you think. If you're going to go with the black studs, or I guess I should say the black stud, if you're going to go with the black studs with the little ring around them, I would go for a matching set of cufflinks. If you're going to go with mother of pearl studs, then I would go with a pair of mother of pearl cufflinks. Interesting cufflinks that I found. Here is one that has a gold background with a mother of pearl cloud on it, which I thought it looked really nice. Cufflinks that I found at a swap meet about 10 years ago or so now. These two pairs of cufflinks my fiance actually gave me. This is just a simple a silver casing around a bit of wood from a Model T spoke, the Model T Fords. I'm kind of into old cars as well, so this is kind of a special one that I wear for very special occasions. Tiny little trombone. My fiance gave this one to me because I play trombone. I play trombone in my university's orchestra, which is where I wear this white tie stuff the most often. Generally, you'll want to kind of, you don't want to go too over the top with cufflinks, but with stuff like this, you just can't resist those types of things. One of the things that I've seen the Gentleman's Gazette do, Sven Raphael Schneider, what he likes to do is he will pair a pair of red socks with his tuxedo or with his white tie ensemble and his opera pumps to show that little bit of red. It's the little pop of color. I'm not talking about crazy socks here, but they're just some vertical stripes, vertical red and white stripes on the socks. It really looks quite elegant. Of course, the only thing that this tailcoat is missing right now is a pocket square, so we'll go ahead and we'll stuff that in there. Kind of have the sprezzatura look to it, but I'm not quite sure if you can get away with red, but I've gotten away with it, so I'm gonna go with it. Of course, if you're wearing a boutonniere, I'd recommend just like a regular white pocket square. But if you're not, then you can be out there a little bit. If you'd like to, you can wear your red pocket square with your red socks. The top hat, which should be polished silk, this one's actually vintage. You don't have to have a top hat, but the height of the top hat balances out with the length of the tails. So now what I'm going to do for you guys is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change into my white tie ensemble so you can see what it actually looks like on me, and you won't have to worry about, I guess, trying to imagine this yourself. So I will be right back. All right, you guys, I am back. I've changed into my white tie ensemble for the evening, although it is in the afternoon. It's not evening time. Anyhow, so what I have here is I'm wearing the shirt without the front, or that closes in the back. Not quite sure how well you can see this, but we're gonna keep going because I have a cheap laptop camera. Woohoo! Anyway, I'm wearing my single end bow tie, so you can see it is very crisp and clean and 1930s-esque and Fred Astaire-esque. There we go. And I am wearing the the wing collar. Now it's called a wing collar, not a wing tip. That's one of the things. You see, these are wing tips. Oh, I almost forgot. Of course, you have to finish off with the top hat. Like I said, I'm wearing the the PK shirt that opens in the back, the detachable collar, the single end bow tie, single breasted white PK waistcoat, tailcoat, which comes down just to the end of the waistcoat, a little bit past it, so that way when I, sitting down or standing up or stretching, oh, I guess I shouldn't stretch too much, my goodness. It doesn't show too much of the waistcoat. Cuffs are the mother of pearl cufflinks. Um, on the shirt, I opted for the mother of pearl piston studs because it's just much easier to put into a starched shirt than the traditional studs are. Of course, this tailcoat is that first black tailcoat which I showed you in the beginning. I think they added a little pop of color there since there aren't any flowers in bloom outside right now. For shoes, I am wearing opera pumps. And I guess you have more options than just black or red when it comes to socks. Any dark gray or midnight blue is also a really fun one to combine. Just make sure the socks go all the way over your calves because bare calves are kind of unsightly when you have so much of a formal ensemble, things that literally cover from your neck to your wrist, seeing a little bit of color on your ankles. It's a little bit of a no-no. In my opinion, it looks kind of odd in general, but to each his own. And that just about covers it, yeah. So here is, like I said, the top hat is vintage. Got it off of eBay. The cane, like I said, I found at the local antique mall for 12 bucks. Yeah, I'm going to give you a run through on what this might cost you if you go out and get it all new, and what it might cost you if you're really savvy and you're a broke college student like me. So if you go out and get things done all new, I know that there are a couple of different clothiers in London or in England who make very good white tie shirts that they close in the front or they close in the back. They make detachable collars. This is a collar from the Barker Group. It's actually their washable model, so theoretically speaking, you're supposed to be able to wash it in the washing machine and then iron it on your ironing board and have it come out perfectly stiff. You avoid that whole starching process, which is a long and arduous process, and I'm not going to get into it right now. But the shirt I've seen go for like 150 along with the collar, um, the PK vest from those same clothiers, from the English clothiers from Brooks Brothers, the waistcoat that's going to be 60 to 75 bucks. So what are we at now? Like 225 or so. Tail suits can be really expensive. They can go. I mean, this one I got for a discounted price of $25. This is the rental company one. 25 bucks from the rental companies if you're savvy. But if you're getting something tailored for you, I honestly, personally, I wouldn't spend any less than about $2,000 on one. If I were to get one tailored for myself, I want it done pretty well. $5,000 that's what you're going to be looking for a really good tail suit. Bow ties are relatively cheap. Okay, so let's just go here. You could probably get a tail suit or custom tailored for you. Not custom tailored, but you can get one new for, we'll call it $1,000. Let's say you're doing like an online made-to-measure store. You could probably get that for about $1,000 or so. So we're at what, $1,225? Bow tie can run, or a brand new bow tie can run you anywhere between $10 and $25. So let's just make this as exaggerated as we can. Let's call it 25. So that puts you up to 1250. Top hat. Shoes. Shoes can be from Brooks Brothers. I think I've seen them for about 300. We'll call it 250. Yeah. Shoes I've seen from Brooks Brothers at about 250. So you're at 1500 for the ensemble right there. And of course socks. If you don't have a pair of black socks, black dress socks in your wardrobe, then what are you doing? No, I'm just kidding. If you don't have a pair of black dress socks in your wardrobe, seriously, drive down to your local corner store and you can find them for no more than $5 a pair. So we're not going to count that in. Studs. Not quite sure what studs and cufflinks usually go for. I know cufflinks can get pretty spendy. Cufflinks can be $50 for a pair. Studs can go. I think at the rental stores they sell them for like $10 for the little package of studs. Um, these piston back studs can be rather difficult to find nowadays. Top hats can run to be like $500 brand new if you're getting a beaver top hat. And of course they don't make silk anymore, so it's not going to be a silk top hat, it's going to be a beaver top hat, but it can still have that really nice sheen. I'm going to tell you where I got all of my stuff, or I guess more appropriately, how I got all of my stuff. Starting with the tailcoat and trousers, I found this tailcoat and these pair of trousers at an antique shop a couple towns away from where I live. I bought those along with a pair of black Oxfords for a grand total of $125. Okay, so let's go back a little bit. The the total cost, if you got things new, you're looking at spending no less than $2 grand, really, on this whole entire ensemble. If you were to go out and get everything new, which I'd like to do at some point, but not really going to happen, I don't think. Not soon, anyway. So you're looking at about $2 grand for everything, brand new. Now, if you're going out there on a budget, then definitely check antique shops. This tailcoat, trousers, I found for $125, and the lady who sold them to me threw in a pair of black cap-toe Oxfords. So, there's already two parts of the ensemble right there, $125. The shirt was $10. Some funny story about the shirt. My parents found it like 12 years ago at a swap meet. Remember how I said that I was into old cars? Well, my dad is into Model T Fords, and at a swap meet there, he found this shirt for maybe 10, $15. I don't know, maybe 5. Um, I also got a few collars with it, but not quite the right collars for this shirt. They were the lay down. Actually, this collar came with the shirt, and I got it all washed and starched, ready to wear. The poke collar, that is, that came with the shirt when my parents bought it like 12 years ago. So that's $135 total. The waistcoat I found on eBay for $10, I think, maybe 15. We'll call it 15, so we're at 150, a nice round even number. The bow tie, again, found on eBay for another $10. The top hat I found on eBay for a fifth, not even a fifth, a tenth of what they would sell, retail for a beaver fur top hat. I got this polished silk top hat on eBay for about $50. So now we're at what? $210 that we've sunk into this outfit. These studs were a gift by my fiance for Christmas one year. They were maybe $325 for the whole, or for all three of they came in a package of 3. It was like $3.25 for the lot of them. And collar studs, like I said, they come a dime a dozen, so they're relatively cheap. For essentially a tenth of the price of what you could get all of this stuff new. I found all this stuff used, uh, you know, antique, secondhand, literally eBay. I know that there's a new site called Poshmark, um, Etsy. Uh, all of these online retailers are great places to look for any of this stuff. And I mean, go out there. I mean, wear white tie more often. You're probably not going to see them in North America. You haven't seen them in North America for quite some time. So what we need to do as men, if you like this look of the top hat, the white tie and tails, the very stately, proud look, uh, go ahead, make white tie parties. Yeah, or not make white tie parties, but I mean, go ahead, host parties that have white tie dress codes, just like you would for a black tie party. Instead of making your New Year's party this year a black tie themed party, make it white tie, or make it white tie accepted, or white tie optional, or black or white tie. I don't care. Just give people the option. There are so many people who don't know about white tie, and that is the unfortunate thing. We need to be able to spread the knowledge of white tie. We need to spread the awareness of its existence in order to get people to wear it more often. Uh, so that's kind of it. There you have it. Uh, Top hat, white tie, and tails. But yeah, so I guess go out there and bring white tie to this world again.